Is the fifth chapter again. So what is scope, project scope management? So we know that scope is part of the three constraints of each project scope management. Sorry. All right. So again.
Kan stanna och prata och stund. You chair if you want. Yeah, that's it there.
So before defining the project scope management, we all know that scope is part of the three constraints of each project management. So what is a scope? Whenever we say scope, we refer to all the work involved in the project that we are going to develop or undertake in. So the definition of the project scope management, it includes all the processes involved in defining and controlling what work is and what is not going to be included in the project that we are going to develop. Yeah? And in project scope management, we have 6 processes or steps. The first step is the planning scope management, and the second one is collecting requirements, and the third one is defining the scope, and the third one is creating the work breakdown structure, and then we're going to have the validating and controlling of the scope. And each of these processes has outputs. So I'm going to talk in detail about the first step, which is the planning scope management. So this is the first step in the project scope management. And in the planning scope management, we plan how the scope will be managed throughout the life of the project. Yeah? And then the project team uses expert judgment and meetings to develop 2 important outputs. The first output is going to be the scope management plan, and the second output is going to be the requirements management plan. These 2 outputs will be crucial for the next steps. And then the second step is collecting the requirements. This is the most difficult step because it depends on the project itself. If we have a big project, we need more requirements, and we're going to take more time in collecting these requirements. And also we have something important. Whenever we don't define our requirements in a correct way, later on in the development of the project that we are going to do or undertake, we are going to face a problem of reworking the project because our requirements were not well defined in the project. And then here we have ways to collect the requirements. We have many ways. The most efficient one was mentioned in the book. It says interviewing the stakeholders. We know that the stakeholders can be the sponsors of the project, or they can be the customers or users of the project. But this specific way of collecting a requirement, it's expensive, the first thing, and the second thing, it's time consuming because you are going to interview each stakeholder by himself. And the second one, which is the focus groups and workshops. In this one, this is the most efficient also, but it's not time consuming because we are going to generate groups and workshops in order to collect the requirements. And then the third one, we have questionnaires and surveys. This is also efficient, but it depends on the stakeholders, like the customers and the sponsors. Because sometimes if they give you vague answers and they don't give you like specific requirements and they don't provide you with the specific data that you want, you will not get what you want, the requirements that you want. And then we have the outputs. From this step, we are going to have 2 outputs, documenting the requirements and then the requirements traceable metrics. And the third step that we have here is defining the scope. In defining the scope, we provide detailed information or detailed definition of the work required for the project. And then here also we use tools and techniques to define the scope. The first technique that we're going to use is the expert judgment. We are going to gather people who have an expertise in judging the scope that we are going to develop. And then we have the product analysis, and then we have the alternatives generation. And in this step, we have also 2 outputs, the scope statement and the project document update. And then this is our fourth step, or fourth process, creating the work process document. Work breakdown structure, sorry. And then in this step, we are going to deliver. I'm sorry, I'm going to iterate what I said. This is the creating the work breakdown structure. Again here, it says deliverable-oriented grouping of the work involved in a project that defines its tools and scope. So here, in each project that we have, we're going to have many activities and many people involved in this project. Yeah. So when we create a work breakdown structure, we subdivide the tasks into smaller parts. And then, also an important thing about the work breakdown structure, that it provides the basis for planning and managing project schedules, costs, resources, and changes. So the work breakdown structure is very vital and is very necessary in our project, the project that we want to develop. And then we have tools and techniques to achieve the work breakdown structure. We have the decomposition. So the decomposition is basically, we are going to subdivide, again, the activities or the tasks that we have in our project into smaller parts, so we can manage them separately. And then the output of this step is the scope baseline, and again, the project document update. And these are examples, I hope everyone can see them. This is an example of a work breakdown structure, and we can format the work breakdown structure in different ways. So for example, in this one here, we are following a tree format. In this one, we can see here, at the top we have the intranet, which is the main concept, and then we have the the products here, and under each product we have sub-tasks. So for example here we have the intranet, and then under the intranet we have the website design, and we have the homepage design, marketing pages, and sales pages. These are all deliverables. And then under these deliverables, we have subdivided them into manageable parts. We have under website design, we have design, sitemap, and then graphic design and program. And this is valid for all the deliverables that we have here. And then we can also format our WBS in a chart format, which is levels. You can see it here in this picture. And then we can also format our WBS in a tabular form, in a numbering way. So the first one, it says the concept, and then under the concept we have the sub-tasks, or we have the products. And then under the products, again, we're going to have the sub-tasks that we have divided, which is decomposition. And then we have approaches to develop the work breakdown structures. So the first approach is the guidelines. Here it says if guidelines exist for developing a work breakdown structure, it is very important to follow them. So for instance, if your organization has a guideline for developing WBS, which is work breakdown structure, it's better to stick to those guidelines when we are developing the work breakdown structure. And the second approach is the analogy approach. Here it says use a similar projects WBS as a starting point. So, for example, let's say that we are having an organization, and we are stakeholders of this company. Yeah, we can look for a similar project, similar to the one that we are developing, and then we can take the WBS of another project as a starting point to our project. So we can have a starting point from there, from the other breakdown structure. And the third one, we have the top-down and bottom-up approaches. In the top-down, we start with the largest items of the project and break them into subordinate items. And in the bottom-up, the team members, they are the ones who are responsible for identifying the specific tasks. After specifying the specific task, then they aggregate the task and then they put them in a summary. And the fourth approach, which is mind mapping, I think Colin's in the last chapter, he spoke about the mind mapping. So mind mapping is similar to what everyone is understanding, which says it uses branches radiating from a core idea to structured thoughts and ideas. So we're going to have our main idea, which is the concept, and then we can have branches out of this idea that we have, or out of this concept. So it doesn't have to be in a linear way, it can be in a non-linear way. Because when we are mind mapping, we are not... It's fine. So yeah, that was about the mind mapping. And then, before finishing the work breakdown structure, we have something very important, which is the work breakdown structure dictionary. For instance, I don't know if we have it here. Yes. Okay, we said that in our project we are going to have tasks. Yeah? Some of these tasks might appear understood to the one who's responsible from doing it. For example, let's say let's take this example. We have an item or a task named update database. Because in a project management, or when we are developing a project, everyone involved in this project should know each task, even if he is not responsible for this task. So the dictionary is a document that provides detailed information about each work breakdown structure item. So I hope you guys can see it here. So in this dictionary, this is a sample. We have 4 sections. We have the project title. In this example, it's going to be an IT upgrade project. And then we have the item number, which is a task. And then we have the item name, which is update database. So update database, again, might appear vague to the customers or the stakeholders. So we are going to describe what update database means. That's the aim of the dictionary, WBS dictionary. And then the 5th step is validating the scope. So after we collect our requirements and we do the breakdown structure, we are going to validate our scope. So again, from the name, we are going to validate whether the deliverables are acceptable or not. So the people who are going to be responsible for doing the acceptance are the stakeholders, which are the sponsors. So again, the acceptance is going to be done by the stakeholders, the customers and sponsors. So after we collect our requirements and we do the task, we are going to give the sponsors and the customers the ability to check whether the products met the requirements or not. And then the tools and techniques used by the stakeholders, they are going to use the inspection and group decision-making techniques. So by inspection, they are going to inspect the products. And by group decision-making, all of the, for example, the customers, they can form a group and decide whether the products met what they want. And then the last step in the processes that we have for the project scope management is controlling the scope management. So in each project that we have, especially in the IT projects that we have, some changes might happen in the later stages of developing or creating the project. Yeah. So in the controlling scope, it involves managing changes to the project scope while keeping project goals and business strategy in mind. Because users are often not sure about what functionality they might need, and developers have to deal with the constant change of technologies. So there are many cases or many things that can influence the change that could happen to a project. So in this controlling scope, we are just trying to control these changes following a specific procedure. And then the goal, again, is to ensure that changes are processed according to procedures developed as part of the integrated change control, which was in the 4th chapter. Collins spoke about this one.
Users, you mean customers and stakeholders, or what? By users are often not sure about?
Yes, users can be customers. Yeah, okay. Yes. Because in the book they use it interchangeably. They say users and customers. So they are stakeholders. And then here there is a summary of the project scope management containing all the steps and the processes and their outputs. I hope everyone can see them. It's starting from the planning, plan scope management, and then collecting the requirements, and then defining the scope, and then creating the work breakdown structure. And then the last 2 steps here is validating the scope and controlling the scope. And then this was mentioned at the end of the chapter, using software to assist the project managers in the project scope management. So the two, I don't know, some of you are not did not do IT, the same program that we did. We took a course which is the system analysis and design. We used a tool called Microsoft Project, which it's actually used for project management. So, and also there is another one called MindView, but I'm not familiar with it. It's also used for
It's an
project
application? It's an application?
It's an application, it's a software. Yeah. You can use it, yes. So in the project, because I'm familiar with Microsoft Project, you
Can
can
you send it later to the link to the group?
Okay, sure. So because it's a paid, but there is a pirate.
No
version.
problem.
Okay. So basically, the Microsoft Project, you are going to put the tasks and the subtasks, and then you can also put the stakeholders, and you can assign the stakeholders to the task that you did, and then you can specify the time and cost. So it's going to be, and at the end you will end up with a Gantt chart containing all the information regarding the project that you developed.
Thank you. Yes, it was quick, but understandable. Hopefully it's okay with you. As you see, all are interconnected. If yes, we have time, cost, etc. That means that step number 3, step number 4, etc. will be all affecting the scope, isn't it? And about the changes, you said they may change the plan. Is it valid for the whole time of the project or only at the beginning?
I mean, because here we are specifically talking about the IT project. So what was mentioned, some of them are following. I mean, the project team, they are following the agile methodology, meaning they know that there is a change that might happen. So whenever they develop something, they do plan something, and then they check whether the step or the phase that they have finished is meeting the requirements of.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to change.
Even the waterfall, you have to change it because the changes are constant, so you have to adapt all the time, every day.
Yes. So
Doesn't
sometimes
matter if you use agile or structured. Real life examples.
And also, teacher, I have a question about this one here.
actually it would be very beneficial if one at the end summarize all of them together.
Controlling. This is the task of project controlling. And one more important thing, I think, the terminology, in scope and out scope. In scope you have to define everything, but you have to define also the out scope in order to get in conflict with your contract and so on, so with the customer. So it's really, really important to write these things also down.
Also
Or MOU, MOU.
And teacher, regarding, you mentioned the summary. John made a summary, but if you guys want to say it, you can say it.
No, about the summary, it's not only for the scope, I mean the whole book.
The whole.
Yeah.
It takes hours. So.
Yes, any questions to John and Ibrahim?
About the time consuming and the expenses that stakeholders must do, can you suggest something to reduce the time consuming and experience they have to compare it with the ITs?
I think it depends on the project also. I mean, at the beginning, when you plan, you should do some meetings that is with stakeholders, that you should be sure that this is our time, this is our requirements. according to the requirements. At that time, we will finish it. If the requirement changes while developing the project, so time will be changed.
Cool.